Tommy Richmond had one of the biggest songs of 2024 with $1 Million Baby. Hate it or love it, it's undeniable. The song is inches away from 1 billion streams just over 6 months after it came out, which is nothing short of insane for an artist who had never charted before and released independently. And it all started from one TikTok. Tommy posted this video of him in the studio with his friends who worked on the song on April 13th. The TikTok exploded. Today it has almost 14 million views. And the follow-up video where he announced the release date of the song a couple days later got 18 million views. Once the song dropped, it took off, and the rest is history. When people see something like this work, they're gonna jump on it and try to do the same thing. This is true of all forms of social media, but especially on a platform like TikTok, where users are encouraged to hop on trends and do whatever is popping at the moment. So it should come as no surprise that there are a bunch of artists on TikTok right now who are trying to recreate that sacred Krabby Patty formioli. But what exactly is that formula? What's the secret behind this video and song that hypnotized so many people? You see, all of those initial viral $1 Million Baby posts that Tommy threw up were shot in a particularly retro and nostalgic kind of way, using an old school camcorder. The VHS aesthetic was a big part of the virality. When the song dropped, Tommy even dropped a second version of it with like a blown out bass that was called the VHS version because people in the comments were asking specifically like, yo, the 808 better sound like that when it comes out. Flash forward to today, we have a ton of artists using that particular style of VHS footage to try to get a song to go crazy on the app the same way that $1 Million Baby did. There are so many examples that I could fill like an entire video of just going through them. This one, from an artist named Miles Lloyd, is what made me want to dive into this a little further. Look at this video and $1 Million Baby together. It's pretty much the same concept. And so that leaves us with a lot of different things to unpack. And a few of those things I want to try to answer in this video. For one, why does this style of video work so well? Or at least, why did it work for Tommy? Does it work only for particular sounds, particular types of songs? When people replicate this strategy, is it biting, or is it just smart marketing? Does every artist need to dig through their parents' basement and find an old camcorder right now? Is it gonna be played out and annoying soon? Kinda like how asking your camera if this is the song of the summer is like a running joke? Let's get into it. And along the way, I'm gonna talk to a couple other artists and creatives who might have a little more perspective, including the guy who actually filmed the $1 Million Baby video itself. But before we do all that, if you like videos on music like this one, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe. I drop a video every week. If you want to see them early, go to my Instagram, HADJI, throw me a follow, join my broadcast channel. I post the links to all my videos one day early in there. Also wanted to say thanks for all the love for my recent song, Pony Up. It dropped while I was on vacation, so if you haven't checked it out yet, you can go check it out. I really appreciate all the comments, people coming over to that channel and being like, yo, found you from your videos. Like, that's super cool. So I'm letting you guys know first that I have a song coming out on November 13th next week called Like Water. Got 2 other artists on it I'm really excited about. I'm putting the pre-save link in the description. If you like the instrumental playing in the background, just give you an idea of what it sounds like. And I got a whole album dropping before the end of the year, so stay tuned on that. And if you're in New York, there's gonna be a big show and I'm very excited for it. Much more to come, but let's get back to the video. Before we can try to unpack all of this, I think it's really important to understand why the $1 Million Baby video was so effective in the first place. The first reason, the absolute first reason, the first thing we need to talk about is that the song is good. It goes without saying that even having the most amazing video ever, the most hooky, engaging, keeps the audience interested type video, it's not gonna matter for the song if they're not gonna wanna go listen to the song. Like, it's actually kind of a big ask. Like when someone's watching TikTok, they're just like scrolling through, right? Like to become a fan of your music, they have to leave the app and go to a whole other app. And that can be a big ask when someone's in the middle of like watching their daily brain rot to like go to a whole other app and save this song from an artist they've never heard of. So the song needs to be catchy enough to be like stuck in people's heads. Like, yo, I need to hear the rest of this. And sure, maybe people are sick of $1 Million Baby by now. I mean, it's understandable. The song is literally everywhere. Like I work at a high school in the Bronx. When my kids graduated, like that song played at their graduation, which is pretty surreal for me because like I've known Tommy for like 2 years, you know, so it's like pretty sick, honestly. But for people today who are like, yo, I can't stand to hear $1 Million Baby, like I get it. It's everywhere. It's totally understandable. But we can still go back to that first post that Tommy put up and look at the comments from when he dropped it. Hardest snippet I seen, no cap. Bro, I'ma pull up at your crib if you don't drop this. Literally playing on repeat in my head, driving me nuts. This song will be played on every boat this summer if you release it in time. That guy was Nostradamus, for real. We should ask him who's about to win the presidential election and put some money on it. But beyond the song just being good and catchy, there are a few deeper reasons why the video was so effective, at least in my opinion. And the one that we can start with is that retro camcorder film style. Because the production of the song $1 Million Baby is so nostalgic, throwbacky, retro. And even Tommy's falsetto has this feeling, kind of takes you back to the 80s with it. It makes sense to present the song with something that visually feels like the warm memories that you might associate with your past. The first camcorder released in 1983, with some of today's most popular retro camcorder formats like Video 8 and Hi 8 coming out in the 80s. People might also associate that fuzzy handheld camcorder style with the 1990s and skate videos from that culture. I highly recommend the movie Dee Dee for anybody who hasn't seen this movie, but there's a whole section in the movie about the kid like filming his friends skating on a camcorder, and like that's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. But why have me sit here and talk about filming the footage when I can just ask Josh Belvedere, the guy who actually did it? A lot of times when we talk about artists' visual styles and the videos that they post, we forget that when they're in front of the camera, there's somebody else behind it. Josh has done a lot of great work for Tommy and some other artists as well, and so I reached out to him to ask him some questions about the video. He's been using analog cameras for 2 or 3 years or so, doing skateboarding videos for his friends before he moved into doing music stuff. So I asked him about the decision to use a VHS camera for the $1 Million Baby video, and this is what he said. The VHS cam is the tool I have at my disposal to communicate what I'm seeing. OGG tapes, and OGG, by the way, is A$AP Rocky's creative collective, are a big inspiration. Old cameras are friendlier when it comes to long-term filming, and they have an archival feel to watching the footage because it looks out of time, which is kind of what we're going for artistically, to draw something completely fresh by taking our favorite parts of the past. That last part, taking our favorite parts of the past and putting them together to make something new, aligns so well musically with what made $1 Million Baby so popular. The falsetto screams 80s, but the production is more Neptunes, more turn of the millennium. And then you get these like Memphis style vocal chops that are more 3-6 Mafia. It's a mishmash of these different worlds, but together it makes something that feels new, feels like something that we haven't really heard before. There's a part in the Pharrell Lego movie where he talks about how he thinks like no ideas are truly new, you're just like pulling different things from the universe and putting them together. It's probably not the first guy to say something like that, I just saw that movie recently so I was thinking about it, but it's kind of that idea. The reference to OGG is a good jump off point to remember that while we might see so many of these videos on TikTok today, Tommy and Josh were not the first people to use camcorders from the past to make a cool kind of edit. And so the reference to OGG is a good reminder, of course, that people have been using camcorders for a while in a retro sense to like get that kind of feel. When we talk about the influence that Tommy and Josh are having right now, it's looking at this very specific moment in time that we're in. I also bought a camcorder this year to add some more pop to some of the music videos I was working on. The funny thing is I actually went to check when I bought it, and I actually bought it 4 days before the $1 Million Baby video was posted. I was inspired by my friend and fellow artist Kenny Can Fly, who does an excellent job of representing his visual world using a lot of VHS footage. I love the oversaturated pop and like the color bleed that you get, especially when you start playing with the saturation, and the ability to just easily turn it on and film whatever you want. It makes mundane moments feel lived in and warm and nostalgic and cool. So I texted him and I asked him what camera he used. And then I just went right on eBay and I bought the same one. You can see it in some of my videos for Was It Ever Really Like That or for Showtime. And my song dropping next week, which funny enough also has Kenny Can Fly on it, has a video I shot entirely on VHS. More on that video in a second. There's another aspect to the $1 Million Baby video success that I think is really important. And that's the energy that you get from watching Tommy in the studio with his friends bouncing around listening to this thing they just made. Anyone who makes music with their friends or in a collaborative setting knows what this is like. Honestly, sometimes you don't even like the song after you leave the studio, but in that moment, that's a Grammy-nominated song. You're just bouncing around, singing the words back to each other, looking at each other and performing it. It's great. The $1 Million Baby footage gives all the fans and the viewers a chance to feel like they were in that room with them. And the comments on the first post reflect that too. Song makes me feel exactly like the dude in the gray hoodie. That's Jonah Roy, by the way. Put some respect on his name. He produced $1 Million Baby, he produced Tommy's album Coyote, and he produced my song Snow Globe. He's incredible, he's cracked, he's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. My mood for this song is dude with the gray sweater vibey. There are so many comments like this. Tommy himself has talked about how making $1 Million Baby was just like a regular day in the studio for him. He didn't know immediately it was gonna be this smash hit. But I was curious, so I asked Josh what he thought the energy was like and what he was thinking in the moment while he was filming it. Honestly, while the song was being made, it genuinely felt like another day in the office. Tommy makes a banger, I film him making the banger, and everyone vibing to it. And the way he posted the song was just like, oh, here's a cool song I just made, and not some, this will change our lives forever. With how normal it was, the impact of how everything went fascinates me. It's simply a bunch of lads vibing to what was made. I feel like anyone who makes music knows how it's like to have people vibing to something cool you made. Not every song goes viral on TikTok in the same way. Sometimes the virality can be driven by a very particular trend, like a dance or some kind of like before or after transition kind of situation. The sound becomes repeatable and more people use it for their posts. And after a while, some of those people are like, oh cool, let me go listen to this song. It's stuck in my head now. But it's not immediate sometimes. Million Dollar Baby did end up going viral in this same context later when people would use it for like the black girlfriend effect transitions. But the way it first went viral, and another way that a lot of songs go viral, is from artists just posting their song and being like, hey, check out this thing I made. And then the audience is there to evaluate it and be like, this is awesome, drop it right now, or put the fries in the bag. And sometimes when artists are showing off songs, they're just in the studio alone or in their room or something. For some people, that's what the creation process is like. It's very solitary. This song I found on TikTok and liked a lot, Double Dog by Emery, is a good example of that. It's a slideshow of just 3 pics of the artist in the room, just making a cool song. The equipment in the picture I feel like adds this like DIY kind of aspect. Like someone painstakingly made this song in their room by themselves. And the song itself is, it's kind of reflective, feels like inner thoughts, feels like something that you would listen to by yourself. So not every song, is gonna make sense for you to have everybody in the studio bouncing around, jumping like crazy, because not all music is like party music for you and your friends. But at the same time, so many of the videos that go viral of artists showing off their music is them in the studio going crazy, like the Tommy videos. There are genuinely so many examples of this, but for some reason, the one that came to mind for me was the Billie Eilish Armani White song, where the first video of that was just him in the studio, showing it off. And his friends are there, the people who worked on the song are there, they're bouncing, they're having a good time. For the people at home, it kind of feels like you're a part of it when you watch videos like that. It's almost like a performance in itself, trying to convince you to bounce around with them the same way that they are. If you're lonely at home scrolling on TikTok and you see that video, you subconsciously think, maybe if I stream this song, I'll be bouncing around with my friends to it too. It takes you there. It's like an invitation to the studio or to the club for a couple seconds before you flip to the next brain rot video. I was curious what Josh thought, so I sent him that video and he agreed with me. To wrap it all up neatly, it's the combination of the warm, nostalgic VHS footage and the contagious energy of seeing the whole studio vibe with it that helped propel the Million Dollar Baby snippet to virality. So let's take a look at this Miles Lloyd song that I was talking about in the intro, Drive Me Crazy. The first time he posted the snippet was on August 1st, unless he ended up taking the video down before that or something like that. That video did pretty well, got about 30,000 views, and a bunch of comments asking him to drop it. The next post for the song was on October 7th, but at this point, Miles clearly decided to lock in because he started posting videos like twice a day for this one song, Drive Me Crazy. The one he posted on October 9th went up, it got like 100,000 views. Then a week later, he got one that went even crazier, with almost 750,000 views at the time of this video. That was the one that ended up on my For You page. All of these videos are filmed in the same style of the Million Dollar Baby video. And there are people in the comments who are acknowledging the similarities. Musically, beyond the falsetto, and the fact that both songs kind of fall under that like alternative R&B umbrella if you want them to. I don't really think they're that similar, but man, regardless of whether you feel like this strategy is like a little too close to the Tommy strategy, you gotta acknowledge this snippet is fire. This song sounds so good. Like, it's been stuck in my head so many times in the course of making this video. Or whatever he said. I don't know, man, but it's stuck in my head. I'd love to stream it to get it out of my head, but unfortunately, even at the time of this video coming out, it will still not be out. People in the comments have not been happy about that, by the way, but sometimes that's just the way things go. At least it does have a release date, November 7th, so it'll be out like a couple days after this video drops. I encourage you to go listen to it because based off the snippet, it sounds absolutely fire. I'm just excited for a good song. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Is this biting? It really goes without saying that the whole visual and promotion style is heavily inspired by what Tommy did with Million Dollar Baby. Not only is it VHS footage, but you see Miles and his friends kind of bouncing around the studio in the same way. I'll give my own thoughts on that in a bit, but I feel like what matters the most is for us to ask the people who actually made Million Dollar Baby. So I sent it to Josh, and Josh said it was very flattering stuff. I mean, there's no doubt to me that Million Dollar Baby's success is probably what inspired Miles to film this video in that way. But is this something we should look down on an artist for doing? Because my answer for that is definitely no. First of all, even if it was inspired by Tommy, none of the people involved in this invented the VHS camera. None of them invented the idea of hanging out with your boys in the studio. Like, this is all free game. It's all things that are floating about in the ether for us to grab and use, or whatever the hell Pharrell said in that movie. But beyond that, even if you think about the way that music promotion works these days, artists are encouraged to post on TikTok like multiple times a day if they really want to get things going. Most of the TikToks that an artist posts won't even be seen by the same people, which is why they have to post kind of the same stuff all the time because of the way the algorithm works. I've talked about it so many times, right? But it's like your music promotion videos are competing with like cute videos of animals, politics, like all the other stuff that you get on social media. It's all in the same feed. So if you want to make a dent in society, like you gotta start throwing up a lot of shots. Expecting every single one of the posts that an artist throws up to be like some kind of novel concept, I think is a little too much to ask for. Especially when an artist doesn't have like a whole team doing it. If we want good music, we should want artists to be spending most of their time in the studio making more stuff or fine-tuning what they already have, not coming up with intensely groundbreaking promo strategies. You know, I always say I've grown to love making visual content, like not just YouTube videos, but like music videos and all that stuff. Like when I started making music, I never knew I was gonna do any of that. It's a process. Learning how to do that is a process, and everybody's gonna get there at different times. And it's fair and it's understandable to look at this video and be like, you know, this is kind of like $1 Million Baby. I get it. But I don't think it's fair to call the artist derivative or call the song derivative because of that. You just gotta understand the way the game is. At the end of the day, the goal of this video is for you to hear that melody, for you to hear that, don't blame me, I'm a security, and be like, yo, I need to hear the whole thing right now. And maybe once Miles has a little bit more of a footing, like once this song drops and it does well and people have eyes on him, then he can start to build like a visual world that is really unique to him. It's a tougher ask to get people to click on those videos, you know, when they don't know who you are. Like I've put hours into certain music videos thinking like, oh, I'm gonna make the best thing possible. And like, of course I'm proud of them, right? And I wanted to express that and I wanted to make that, but it's like nobody watches them. So I totally understand if an artist is like, yo, this works. I made a great song. Let me just do what works, you know, like, sure, I totally get it. But one thing I want to say is that even though TikTok is a platform that encourages repetition, like I think artists see the benefit of that repetition more than their video people do. And let me explain. If someone loves $1 Million Baby so much that they make a whole video on TikTok using $1 Million Baby, everybody on TikTok can see that this is $1 Million Baby. This is a song from Tommy Richmond. If you're using the visual style that a Josh Belvedere used when he made that Tommy video in your video, like the people who see your video have no idea who that guy is. Does that make sense? And that sucks, you know? I think Josh Belvedere deserves some flowers. That's really all I'm trying to say. Miles is not the only new artist using VHS footage to immense success in the wake of $1 Million Baby. Wes Patrick has one of the strongest visual games of any artist that I can think of in the underground or any smaller artist, any word you want to use like that. He has so many favorites that I can pick out to show you. Like the High and Mighty video where he covers his friends in Christmas lights, the great set pieces and shots in the Six Pack video, and probably my personal favorite one where he projected onto a flag for the Hollywood Chaser video. With all of these high effort, high concept, well executed ideas, it almost feels ironic and unfair that the video that's done the best for him is one where he just shoots with an old VHS handycam. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. His post from August of this year for his song Money in the Mail has gone absolutely insane with 370,000 views on Instagram Reels. And it's converting to listeners too. That song has over 250,000 streams in just about 2 months. And at first glance, that clip is just like any of the other VHS videos that have gone viral. It's retro looking, a little bit out of sync due to the analog tech, and it's saturated with the colors bleeding. I asked him what made him want to go with the VHS style for this song, and he said, it was definitely to accompany that early 2000s sound. Plus the distorted synths and bass we used needed a gritty aesthetic. But even then, in typical Wes Patrick fashion, the shot is a little more complex than just him and his friends hanging out in the studio. It wasn't until probably the 10th time that I saw this reel where I noticed the people standing on the roof in the background like waving a flag back and forth. I asked him about setting up that shot and he said, yeah, I mean the vision for the song was to be played at parties. So I kind of just framed up my own little Project X. Threw a Japanese flag in the mix for some familial pride, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Intention behind it all is to ensure the visuals match the vibe of the Sonics. While $1 Million Baby and Money in the Mail don't really sound that similar to each other, they both have production that is retro and nostalgic feeling, with vocals that feel a little bit more modern. Tommy opted for a Memphis vocal bounce, and Wes has some vocal effects that led people in the comments to call it Pharrell hyperpop. But either way, it's the marriage of new and old that drives both of these songs to the forefront, and also explains why the VHS footage goes so well with both of them. Wes told me that his first ever video was actually in a VHS format as well, but he had to do it in post at the time because he couldn't afford getting a VHS camera. Well, you might think that the technology is old and thus it would be cheap, or you can just dig one out of your parents' basement. The costs can add up. Let me show you how. I bought my camera for like $175 in good condition on eBay. You don't want some shit that isn't gonna work, so obviously I went for one that was confirmed to be in good condition. Then you gotta get the tape itself, which is like 20 bucks on Amazon for about 2 hours of shooting, but it'll vary on what format your camera is. Not too bad so far, but then comes the actual getting your footage off the tape and onto your computer part, which for me was where I ran into the most issues. I tried out a few methods, but a lot of them were like choppy or laggy and not in like a cool way. The only true way that I found that worked consistently was using this thing called Clear Click Visual to Digital Converter. This is not an ad, by the way, but this thing works. It's not cheap. It's like at least another $100. This is obviously overall cheaper than like going and getting like a really nice modern camera. Like my Blackmagic 6K camera was like over a rack, and that was like with a big homie deal that I got from somebody who was selling it. But it's still like a couple $100 out of your pocket to shoot on like real analog VHS. And it's a lot of work, especially when you're super early in your career. Like I understand why someone would be like, let me just figure out how to do this in iMovie. There are also some mobile apps that you can use if you're like really starting from zero that'll like give your iPhone footage like a little bit of a VHS effect. I have some hands-on experience using them recently. You might be saying, HADJI, why the hell were you using iPhone effects when you literally have a VHS camera? Strap in, it's a bit of a story. So this past month, I went to Japan with my girlfriend on vacation, and I was like, wow, this is like the perfect opportunity for me to shoot a really cool video. I didn't want to bring my nice camera, so I brought my camcorder. I had a show in LA, and then I went to Japan from there, so I brought the camcorder where I performed the song with Kenny on stage. We got some really cool footage. Everything was great. I got on the plane to Japan. I was in Tokyo. I opened my bag. Just broken. Broken, man. That's it. It's cooked. It's over. I had already uploaded the song, and I've got an album rollout that I'm trying to stick to, so not shooting the video wasn't really an option. And like, when's the next time I'm gonna be in Japan? You know, like I wanted to capitalize on this. So I was running around Tokyo, going to like every camera store that I could find. And I finally found something kind of close. I got this mini DV camcorder, which is like early 2000s technology, but the vibe is close enough. And so the camera has both like a compartment for tape and also like a SD card for like a memory stick. And I asked the shop owner like through a language barrier, like, oh, do I need tape? And he's like, oh, don't worry about the tape. It shoots onto the memory card. And the camcorder itself is like entirely in Japanese, like not just like the screens, but like the buttons, like the written buttons on the side of it. Everything's in Japanese. I don't know what anything does. And so like when I Google the model to see if I can find an English thing, like of course they name the models differently in Japan and in the US, so all the manuals I found were also in Japanese. And so one of the settings on the dial that I couldn't read would only let me shoot in like 15-second bursts. So I was like, that's kind of weird. I don't like this setting. I'm gonna use the other one. So then I stuck to the other one, but whenever I would use it, I would hear like tape whirring, which was like not a good sign that things were going onto the SD card. So I went to this electronics store, I got a card reader, I popped in the SD card because I was getting a warning that said it was running out of space. And then I looked on the SD card and only like the choppy 15-second videos were on there and all the other stuff wasn't on there. So I correctly deduced that it was filming onto the tape that was already in there. But I need to find more tape because I was running out of tape. So I had to go to another store and buy the tape, which I was lucky to find. And all the footage that I got looks great. I'm super excited to show you guys this video. Also got some super cute footage of the previous owner's cat. But yeah, it was an adventure. You'll see the video next week. Just know when you see it, like a lot went into me being able to finish that. But that's really like the downside of shooting on analog like this. You're back in the 90s in terms of like the equipment at your hands. It's hard to find info or get things fixed, like even when stuff is in English. And it's sneakily more expensive than you think. But at the end of the day, it's worth it to get that warm, nostalgic footage. Look at what I shot on my phone using the True VHS app versus what I shot on my mini DV camera. It just ain't the same. I'll let the footage speak for itself. And in total, all of this is being driven by two very powerful psychological effects: nostalgia and herd mentality. Nostalgia is self-explanatory. Seeing things from our past that we loved will always give us that warm, fuzzy feeling. I think it's extra powerful at a time like this when the world in the future feels kind of bleak. Sometimes it feels like the only safe place to go is to the past. My fault for taking it there in a video on a topic like this, but yeah. Herd mentality might sound like a negative word, but hear me out. At the end of the day, that's the effect that you're getting when you see people having fun in the studio. If they're bouncing around like they made a hit, and it's a genuine enough feeling and the song sounds good enough, it's contagious. You feel it too. You're like, damn, yeah, this is fire. Let me go save this. That's why artists bring their friends to the studio in the first place. That's also why they bring their friends with them on stage. You ever wonder why artists have like 10 of their friends on stage? That's why. It gives them that energy. It's contagious. You're getting that through your phone when you're watching these videos. So to all the fans wondering why all their favorite artists are posting these videos that look like they were filmed with the camera that your parents used at your kindergarten graduation, I hope this explains why. For artists who wanted to have their own Tommy Richmond moment, I hope all this gives some more context for why it all works so well if it works, and helps you think a little more deeply about the way that you present yourself visually on social media. And what do you guys think? Is this a trend that's gonna come and go? Or will we keep seeing this forever because nostalgia is just too powerful? Is it biting, or is it just the way things go? Let me know. Let me know what you want to see a video on next. Peace.